It is virology and mycology, and the subject code is BM multi 5001, and currently we are in the unit 3. In the unit 3, we have introduction to virology. So until now, we have discussed about the classification, morphology, replication of the virus, and from today onwards, we will discuss about the cultivation of viruses. So before discussing the cultivations, once let us do a quick revision on viral replication. I'm directly going to the viral replication. In the viral replication, we have 6 stages. So the 6 stages are absorption, penetration, uncoating, biosynthesis, maturation, and release. Absorption can also be stated as a attachment of the virus to the cell. So when this attachment occurs with the proteins present on the surface of cell, and also to the virus, it will have a ligands. So with the help of these ligands and the proteins, the virus will firmly attach itself to the cell surface. Then the virus will penetrate into the cell, and that penetration is called viroplexis. So after viroplexis, the virus will uncoat itself. The enzymes present in the cell will uncoat the viral proteins, and the viral genetic material will be exposed into the cell. Then this genetic material will undergo biosynthesis. The genetic material will give instructions to produce the proteins that are required for the viral production. Those proteins will be coded by the ribosomes present inside the cell. So this particular stage of viral replication is called biosynthesis. Upon biosynthesis, these proteins will get mature. They will assemble together to form a baby viruses. Okay, and this step is called maturation. Upon maturation, the virus will be released by two methods. One will be by budding, another one will be lytic. Budding means here the virus will acquire the cell membrane as an envelope, and virus will become enveloped virus. And second stage is a lytic phase, where the virus will burst the cell and it will come out, which is called lytic of the cell. Then by the time of the penetration of the virus into the cell till the release of viruses from the cell, we cannot able to detect virus within the body. And this particular period is called the eclipse phase of the virus replication. During this eclipse phase, we cannot identify any viral bodies in the body. So the immune system will be blind about viral presence in the body because of this eclipse phase nature of the viruses. Since they are inside the cell, the immune system cannot able to recognize the virus. Okay, and this particular stage is called the eclipse phase. Then viruses are also classified depending upon their preparation of mRNA. Depending upon that, these viruses are classified into these 7 types. We have double-stranded DNA, single-stranded DNA, double-stranded RNA, single-stranded RNA, positive and negative stranded RNA and DNA viruses. So this is all about the viral replication. Any more doubts in viral replication, students? Do you have any more doubts? No, right? No doubts in viral replication, right? I know I was quick because I done a revision. Okay, that is why I was fast. Then one more thing I need to tell, which we already discussed. So the leftover proteins during viral replication within the cell are called as the leftover proteins during viral replication within the cell are called as what?
Sir, inclusion virus.
Inclusion bodies. Okay, we cannot say
Yes,
virus, we
bodies.
should say bodies.
Inclusion.
Okay, inclusion bodies. This what will be the location of RNA viral inclusion bodies? Where they present and
In
what is there
cytoplasm, sir. In
in cytoplasm?
cytoplasm.
Then they are called as
Cytoplasm. Inclusion
inclusion
body.
bodies. Very good. Cytoplasmic inclusion bodies. What about DNA viruses?
In the nucleus, sir.
Very good. In the nucleus. So they are called nuclear inclusion bodies, intranuclear inclusion bodies. Okay. So very good. Then viral cultivation, students. So in today's lecture, I will discuss in detail about the viral replication. Okay. So how the virus will be cultivated, how the virus can be grown in the laboratories. That I'm going to discuss. Okay. So kindly pay attention. I hope everyone listening my lecture, right? Is everyone paying attention, students?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So today we will discuss about viral cultivation. So we already know that we need a living cell or some living material for the replication of virus. For the growth of virus, we must need something, a living cell or some living material for the growth of virus. So let us see what are the alternatives or what are the methods we have for the growing these viruses in the laboratory. So these are the broad categories. So first and very simple method will be animal inoculation. Say for example, I suspect I got a patient to my lab, to my hospital, and that patient has some chicken pox symptoms. He has poxes on the surface of skin. He has small nodules, blisters on the surface of skin. So I suspected it is a chicken pox. Now what I can do is I will take the patient blood and I will introduce this blood into any animal. I will take a rat and I will introduce I will give injection. I will take the patient blood as an injection to the mouse or to the rat. Then I will wait for 7 days or 4 to 5 days. Okay. Within 5 days, if the rat developed any blisters on its skin, means that indicates yes, the patient got viral infection. It is a chicken pox. Such method of viral detection is called animal inoculation. We will use living animals for inoculating the viruses. Such method is called animal inoculation. Now there is a huge problem with this animal inoculation. One problem is obviously we are sacrificing the animals for the sake of viral studies, just for getting a report whether the patient has viral infection or not. For that we are killing animals. How appropriate is it? I think it is unethical to do such experiments with animals with viruses. Then what else we can do? The second problem with animal inoculation is these infected animals, they will start roaming here and there in the, there is a chance of escaping of these animals from the laboratory. Say for example, I inoculated a virus in a rat and unfortunately this rat escaped from the lab. And imagine if this rat has a deadly virus. Now this rat will start spreading the virus in the community. This rat will cause contagious in the community. All community will get infections by this rat. This will be the second disadvantage of animal inoculation. One is sacrificing them, and second one is we may not contain them. These animals may escape from the laboratory, and that will cause localized viral outbreaks. So, from any point of view, animal inoculation is not so good. Okay, so this is one problem with the animal inoculation. So we need an alternative method of growing viruses. So the second method will be we can use an embryonated egg. So we can grow this virus in a embryonated egg so that we can use this embryonated egg as a tool for growing the viruses. So here there is no problem of escaping of animals because it is tiny embryo. But still it poses a question. How appropriate is it to kill a living organism just for viral studies? Still there are ethical implementations. Even though it is a just egg, but still it is a fully potential future grown animal. And we are killing its life just for the viral studies. Even egg inoculation is not so appropriate. Then the third approach we can take is somehow we need to maintain cells outside the body. We need to take certain cells and we need to maintain these cells. So these are called cell cultures and tissue cultures. So the third approach will be tissue cultures. So in the tissue cultures, what we can do, we will suspend these tissues in some living material in a nutrient media, and we will provide constant oxygen to the cells, and we will use these cells for the replication of viruses. So that is called tissue cultures. Sir. Yes, sir. Just wait, students. Please go through this classification, students. I will come back within 3 minutes.
अब you commercial or you
All right. So are you listening, students? Sorry for the break. Actually, I am doing another work. Okay. Can you hear me, students?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So these are the
Yes.
three. Yeah. Thank you. So these are the three broad methods where we can grow the viruses. We can use living animals where we can inoculate virus directly into the living animals, or we can use embryonated egg, or we can also use tissue cultures. So in the animal inoculation, we can use different animals, whereas in the embryonated egg, we can use multiple sites of the embryonated egg. We can introduce virus in the cam membrane of the egg. We can introduce virus in the allantoic cavity, amniotic sac, or yolk sac. This I will discuss later. Then we can also use tissue cultures. Now, in the tissue cultures, we have three types. What are those means? Some viruses are organ-specific viruses. For example, influenza virus only infects lungs. Hepatitis virus only infects liver. Pancreatic virus only infects pancreas. Now, I need a organ level I need organ cell cultures. That means I need to take entire organ and I need to cultivate it. I need to give nutrition to the organ. Such cultures are called organ cultures. Then we have explant cultures. Explant cultures means here we will mince the tissue in a fluid medium and we will take explants. Okay, so there is a procedure of getting explant tissue culture that I will discuss later. Okay, so this is explant tissue culture, and third one is cell culture. In the cell culture, we have three types: primary cell culture, diploid cell culture, and continuous cell cultures. So what is the difference between primary, diploid, and continuous? Primary cells means these are the first generation cells are called primary cells, whereas second generation cells are called diploid cell cultures. Okay, and third type will be continuous cell lines that I will discuss later. Okay, it is a really interesting field. So before that, let us start with animal inoculation. So animal inoculation means here we will introduce virus directly into the animals. So I said about the disadvantages of animal inoculation. Few of the disadvantages are: one is animal sacrifice, then second one is animal may escape from the laboratory. So that is two disadvantages. Then what is the advantage of animal inoculation? The major advantage is we can able to completely understand the virus nature, because upon introducing into the animal, we can see the animal behavior, we can see the signs of the animal, we can see the symptoms developed by the animal, we can see the viral pathogenesis, how the virus spreading in the body. All these things can be in detail we can observe only in animal inoculation. So the complete viral pathogenesis can be understood only by animal inoculation. So that is the major advantage. Okay, I'm agreeing we can grow virus in cell lines. We can grow virus in a organ culture medias or cell medias. But in the organ or cell medias, we can only grow the virus, but we cannot see the effects of the virus. We don't know how the immune system react to the virus. We don't know what type of signs and symptoms will be shown by the virus. These things we will miss out if we are using cell cultures. So that is the major advantage of animal inoculation. By animal inoculation, we can able to completely study the viral pathogenesis. Okay, so let us see animal inoculation. So animal inoculation uses are primary isolation of viruses to study pathogenesis of viral diseases and to study the viral signs and symptoms can be easy with the help of animal inoculation. For this purpose, we can introduce virus in multiple locations of the animal. We can introduce virus in the tail, in the subcutaneous, or in the intravenous, or even in the metastatic or in the muscles also we can introduce the virus. So we can inoculate virus in multiple locations of the animals. So inoculation of virus in animals. So laboratory animals play an essential role in studies of viral pathogenesis. Live animals such as what type of animals we can use are we can use monkeys, mice, rabbits, guinea pigs, ferrets are most widely used animals for viral inoculation. So mice is the most widely employed animal in the virology. So we did extensive virology studies in the mice actually. So we sacrificed millions of mice for the sake of viral studies globally. Okay, so for this purpose, students, many animals has been slaughtered. The PETA and international animal organizations has been given a stringent protocols and strict obligations for the use of animals in the study of virology. So now we cannot do animal studies easily. We need to get approval from ethical committee, and it will take almost 6 months to get approval. So it's a very lengthy procedure, and there is a reason behind it because animals also have rights and they to deserve a healthy life. So they are not someone who can be punishable. For our benefit, we cannot punish animals. So these are few pictures of animals using in the laboratories. So they will torture the animals and they will do multiple things on these animals for viral studies. So one of such is a DRACE test. So here we are using rabbits for the growth of virus. So they introduced virus in the abdomen of this subcutaneous layer of this rabbit, and they are studying viral studies. And the most painful method of studying this virology is something called a DRACE test. So in this DRACE test, we will introduce or we will inoculate virus directly into the eyes of the animals. We will introduce virus directly into eyes. Just imagine inserting a needle into your eye when you're alive and studying on you. That level pain will be felt by these animals. So we need to stop this animal cruelty. So let us see this animal inoculation. So this is for primary isolation of certain viruses to study pathogenesis of viral diseases and to study viral oncogenes. Viral oncogenes means to study viral mediator cancers. We will do this animal inoculation. So for this purpose, we will use infant suckling mice, or we can also we will introduce this virus into various routes. So some routes include intracerebral, subcutaneous, intraperitoneal, or even intranasal. We will introduce the viral sample into the animal. Then after introducing, we will observe for signs of diseases in the animals. And we can also go for some serological test upon these animal blood samples for detection of viruses. So most commonly used animals include mice, guinea pig, pigs, rabbits, and monkeys are utilized for virological studies. So this is all about animal inoculation. So we can use animals for the cultivation of viruses. Okay. So this is animal inoculation. Then second one is embryonated egg culture. So embryonated egg culture really given, it is like the best uh, tool that we invented in the virology. So here we, again, why sir? Ah. Okay, so coming to the second one is embryonated egg culture. So embryonated egg culture means here we will take embryonated egg and we will go for culturing. So because of this embryonated egg, millions of animals has been saved by this technique. So millions of animals has been uh, uh, prevented from the torture that we are doing for virological studies. So it's a great thing in the field of virology. So this has been developed by Goodpasture. So a scientist named Goodpasture developed this embryonated egg. So he took this embryonated egg, incubated egg, okay? So semi-developed embryo egg he took and he utilized this egg for growing the viruses. So he is Goodpasture. And the animals, if animals have any god means that god should be Goodpasture, because he has saved millions of animals out of this onslaught. So he used, but not exception is only for chickens. Okay. Anyway, just kidding. Really, sir? Where? My class. Where is Kajal ma'am, sir?
Sir, she has gone for lunch 1 hour before. Still now she is doing lunch. I don't know where is she. I have taken a picture of her. I can see it. Give you the
I'm in the class, sir.
You are doing lunch. Sir, she was doing lunch 1 hour before. Now I don't know where is she.
Okay, sir. So coming to the embryonated egg. So this is an embryonated egg and we can introduce virus in multiple locations. Now I will draw the picture of embryonated egg. So kindly follow me, students. Now I will show you the picture of embryonated egg.
Doing our bachelor's in medical technology. We need to get our degree registered.
Can you see blank slide, students? Can you see blank slide here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Fine. So just to see, I will show you the tricks of drawing egg. Okay. So follow me. So first you need to draw a cross. So draw a cross like this. Okay. So this cross will help you for drawing an egg. Okay. So now first you will draw a cross. Drawing the cross. See, from the top you can draw like this. Okay. Then from here you can go to the bottom. See, now you got egg shape. Then you can erase the inner one. So now you got a proper egg. So this is how you can draw an egg. Okay. Then inside the egg, on the top portion, on the broader portion of the egg, you will see air sac. So here the egg will have air cavity. So this area, it will have air cavity. So the obvious reason for having this air cavity is for giving air to the developing baby. So this much air is sufficient for the developing baby. Okay. Then below this air sac, you will have double membrane layer. So the double membrane layer is called chorioallantoic membrane. So I will draw this chorioallantoic membrane. See here. So inside the air sac, you have double membraned layer called chorioallantoic membrane. So you need to draw chorioallantoic membrane like this. So this membrane is called chorioallantoic membrane, which is a double layered membrane. This is chorioallantoic membrane. This membrane is called CAM membrane. That means chorioallantoic membrane. Chorioallantoic membrane. Now, in between these two membranes, you can see an empty space, and this empty space is called as allantoic space. This empty space is called allantoic space. Allantoic space. This empty space is called allantoic space. Okay. Allantoic space. Then after allantoic space, have the embryo. So now I will draw the embryo here. So now you have the embryo. So this is, I will draw with another color. So this is an embryo. So here you can draw a small embryo like this. So this is embryo. Okay. Now this is a developing embryo. Now this embryo is always connected to a yolk sac. This embryo is connected to a yolk sac so that it will get nutrition. So this embryo is connected to a yolk sac. So this is your yellow portion of the egg actually. So this yellow portion will have all the nutrients that are required for supplementation, nutrient supplements for this embryo. So this is yolk sac. This is called yolk sac. Yolk sac. So this is yolk sac. Then at the bottom of this egg, you will find albumin. At the bottom, you will find albumin. So this is albumin. This is albumin. This is albumin. Then this embryo is suspended in a liquid media. So here you will find some liquid. This embryo is suspended in a liquid. Okay. This liquid is called amniotic liquid, or this sac is called amniotic sac. This sac is called amniotic sac. This sac is called amniotic sac. So these are the parts of an embryonated egg. Okay. So embryonated egg has an air space. It has a double membrane called chorioallantoic membrane. Then it has a cavity called allantoic cavity. Then the embryo is suspended in a fluid called amniotic sac. Then you have yolk sac and albumin. So these are the parts of the embryonated egg. Is it clear for everyone, students?
Yes, clear.
So some viruses can be inoculated in specific locations of the embryonated egg. So those include. Here I have given the details. So in the chorioallantoic membrane, you can grow herpes simplex, pox, and carcinoma viruses. Whereas in the amniotic sac, you can introduce influenza and mumps viruses. Whereas in the yolk sac, you can introduce herpes simplex viruses. And in the allantoic cavity, you can introduce influenza, mumps, and avian viruses. Okay, so these are the few viruses that can be inoculated in multiple sites of an embryonated egg. So this is all for today, students. So from tomorrow, I will continue the rest of the lecture. Okay. So for today, you just memorize the structure of egg, embryonated egg. Okay. So thank you very much, students. I will continue tomorrow. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes.